Welcome to our Community Corrections Partnership meeting for August the 29th, 2022. I am Kirk Haynes. I'm the Chief Probation Officer and Chair of the CCP. Again, thank you for being here. I am going to just remind all of the CCP to make sure as you're speaking that the meeting today is being live streamed. So we want to make sure that if you do have anything that you want to say, that you speak into the mic. And making sure that everyone has the opportunity to be able to hear you both here and also online. The Community Corrections Partnership welcomes you to this meeting and encourages your participation. This agenda contains a brief general description of each item to be considered. The chair will call for public comment as each item is heard for those who are present in the meeting and wish to speak to an individual item. If you wish to speak on a matter which does not appear on the agenda, you may do so during the public comment period at the end of the meeting. Virtual meeting information as a courtesy, the CCP is available to be viewed virtually by the public via the link that was attached on the CCP website. There will be no ability to make a public comment via the virtual means. So again, thank you everybody for being here and I appreciate your participation today. Crystal, anything on the? Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we can be heard online because I doubt.
Testing.
Yeah. All right, so we will push forward just to make sure that we can go ahead and remain timely. But what we'll do now is go ahead and call our meeting to order. Again, thank you. And we'll first go to item B, approval of our minutes from the June 13th, 2022 meeting. And asking for a motion and a second or any recommendations for any adjustments. Oh, there we go. Something, okay. Looks like we got a hot mic here, so we're good. All right. So like I said, looking for the approval of our minutes from our June 13th, 2022 meeting, or if there be any necessary corrections.
Chief, one thing to note on the minutes, it lists Susan Holt as the interim director. She was appointed in April, so just one minor correction there. She was the director at that time.
Thank you. Thank you, CEO Nerling. We received a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve. Can you hear that?
No, can you go a little bit closer?
Motion to approve.
Okay, there you go. Make sure you get it right. You got to get right in there like that. Yeah. All right, there's a motion. Is there any public comment regarding today's minutes from June 13th, 2022? All right, seeing none, we'll ask for a roll call vote. And Crystal, would you do the roll call for us?
Chief Haynes,
Yes?
DA Smitkamp,
I believe I should abstain. I wasn't present at the meeting.
Pete. Okay.
Do I need to abstain?
ED Tylak,
Yes.
Chief Dadian,
Yes.
CEO Elliott.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. And moving on to item C, any announcements from the CCP at all? Any announcements for today's meeting that aren't noted? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item D. We have our consent item, which is our vacancy and position control report. On our consent item today. Any questions from the CCP regarding consent? Any questions from the public regarding our consent item today on item D? All right, seeing none, we'll ask for a motion and a second.
Lisa Smitkamp, I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded, and we will ask for the roll call vote. Crystal?
Chief Haynes,
Yes.
DA Smitcamp,
Yes.
PD Tylack,
Yes.
Chief Dadian,
Yes.
CEO Elliott.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you. Motion carries. And now we'll move on to item E, which is to receive our fiscal year 2021-22 year-end budget report. And we have before us today, Deputy Chief Yusel Zalapa, who is going to present the budget report for us today. Welcome, Yusel.
Hello? All right, that's better. I get to sit down too. All right, thank you, Chief. So I will be presenting agenda item E, the fiscal year end budget report for the CCP. I don't need this anymore.
And Crystal, can we, yeah, there we go.
No, thank you. Perfect. To summarize, Sheriff's Department spent roughly $24.5 million, which is about 98% of the allocation. Probation spent $11.8 million, which is 82%. District Attorney, 1.7, roughly 93%. Public Defender, 1.2, 86%. Behavioral Health, about $1 million, which is about 59%. Fresno PD, 1.5, 95%. Clovis PD, $268,000, which is 43%. Selma PD, $165,000, 87%. Ridley, $131,000, which is 80%. Kingsburg, $163,000, which is 98%, and Kerman, $120,000, which is 57% of the allocation. In all, the CCP partners spent about 90% of the fiscal year 21-22 allocation, which was about $42.8 million of the $47.6 that was budgeted for the year, leaving a 4.8 remainder balance to carry on forward. Going into the funds available for the fund balance for the year. This one I'm going to go line by line. So fiscal year 2021-22 started off with $17.5 million in fund balance, with the estimated allocation and the growth for 21-22 and 2021. The full allocation was about $55.5 million. As you can see, I can use this. The CCP spent about 90% of the $47.6 million that was budgeted, which is a $42.8 million. Then there was the estimated interest and the adjustments for 21-22 total about $1 million. And there's a note right here on the bottom that is composed of $349,000 of interest, estimated interest, and $724,571 of pretrial expansion funds that were utilized to refund the CCP, leaving us with $13.8 million in positive fund balance. So for 22-23, there's going to be $31.3 million available for fund balance to begin the year. Now, looking forward, for 22-23, the allocation is about $56 million with a growth of almost $9.5 million, leaving an allocation of about $65.6 million. If we deduct the $48.2 million that we're expected to spend at the 95% of the $50.7 million budget request for 22-23, and then we add the $412,000 of estimated interest, the change to fund balance would be one of positive of $17.8 million. And for fiscal year 23-24, it's estimated that CCP will have about $49 million in fund balance. Any questions regarding the year-end report before I move on to the budget request for 22-23?
So did you run this by the fiscal subcommittee?
Yes.
What did any general thoughts about this fund balance, or do you want to wait till you get into the details, or?
Well, the general thought is the funds are coming in higher than before. If you look at the 2020-21 growth and 22-23 growth, or 21-22 growth, those have not been something that we've seen before. I don't know if that's something that we're going to be continuing to see. It just all depends on the state of the economy. Normally, you see between $2 to $3 million in growth a year. So yeah, the conversation was how do we reduce some of that fund balance to utilize to expand services or for potential programs where we can utilize them over a 5-year plan to be able to expand direct services actually as well to the community.
They have a recommended fund balance as we move forward.
Not from the not that conversation didn't happen during the committee. That's something that we should probably look into setting up or talking at the next meeting regarding how to set up a plan going forward. Also being mindful that the growth may not continue as high as it's been.
Yeah, regardless of, where the growth is, I think it's pretty substantial when we look at the growth of the growth over the last couple of years. But as Yusel points out, there's no guarantee that that is going to be sustainable from the state. So I think one thing that we can do as we move forward is looking at building a plan around utilizing some fund balance and coming up with what is a comfortable fund balance amount to be able to use for direct service for the clients, but also opportunities within the departments to provide some additional services as well. And how can we start to take a look at some of those things as well to, I think to utilize the funding, but still maintain a healthy balance. Paul, did you have anything that you wanted to say just about potential forecasts?
I mean, Yusel alluded to it, but yeah, we're watching closely. I think what we've had the last 2 years has been, of course, unprecedented, but there's also some legislative things happening that could put pressure on other realignment funds. Whether that indirectly affects this or not is still being watched. One question I may have is, I know that when we responded to the audit a couple of years ago, we talked about a reserve of up to 50% of the prior year being prudent. And I guess the question for the CCP is this has been beyond our expectations, but we don't expect it's probably going to flatten from what we're seeing. But if that is in mind, that could be part of the estimates for planning going forward.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, part of the audit that the state did, that was one of the things that we did as we look forward to plans in future years about how do we manage the fund balance, but not letting it grow. But that was assuming the $2 to $3 million growth that we were anticipating that would happen. Nothing like what we've seen for the last few years, a couple of years anyway. Mm-hmm. Any other questions in that regard?
So, Chief, help my failing memory, did this body decide on a percentage of fund balance?
I believe we did. I think there was a point where we were looking at both as a fund balance and also looking at a reserve, where we wouldn't allow for the fund balance to go below a certain amount.
Okay, and do you know what that is?
No, not off the top of my head.
I think this was done before I was sitting up here. I just want to make sure that, again, as we go forward, we're not going to see this again. And no. I don't think we're going to see what we have seen. I think that's as good as it's going to get, and it's not going to get that good again, so to speak. I just want to make sure that we're prudent going forward. I want to use some of these funds properly for programming, for services, for things that have been productive for us. But again, I just feel compelled to caution the CCP that I don't want to get over our skis. And then 5 years from now, I mean, last year was 2 years ago, it's probably 2 years, and now it's probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 years from now. I don't want to have to make drastic cuts. I just want to be prudent along the way. So my editorial on that.
And just echoing what Neil said, so I think all the more important for the evaluation piece that we talked about last time. So right now, we think things are going well in certain areas, but we don't have any hard, fast evaluations on anything that I'm aware. We have some few guesses from way back when. All the more important to ramp that up quickly. So when we get to the point where the money starts trickling down, we know what works and what doesn't work. And if we choose to move forward with stuff that is middle of the road, that's a choice we made based upon the data, not on just the good idea fairy.
Right, absolutely. It's good to be cautious and to really allow the data to drive that decision. I know the our data and our ADC Johnson is going to have some more information about where we are with the evaluation. So we'll hear more information about that in today's meeting. Any other comments from CCP? Any public comment regarding what we've already heard regarding the budget report? All right, Yusel, do you want to continue?
All right. We're going to move on to the 22-23 funding request. All right. For
And
22-20.
before you go there, Yusel, just to make note that this is under item F.
Item
that
F, yes.
we have moved from item E.
To item F.
Now we're at item F.
Yes, so item F is recommended approval of the 22-23 AB 109 funding request to the Fresno County Board of Supervisors. All right, starting off with the Sheriff's Office, they're requesting $25,749,430, which is approximately a 3% increase over the 21-22 allocation. This is mainly due to increases in salaries and benefits. The Probation Department is requesting $15,883,596, which is approximately 9% over the fiscal year 21-22 allocation, and that's due to an increase in salaries and benefits and an increase in costs in the pretrial program, mainly due to the addition of GPS units, as well as increase in AB 109 data collection costs as approved by the CCP. Going on to the next slide here, the District Attorney's request is going up to $2,269,049, which is approximately 20% increase over 21-22. That's due to an increase in salaries and benefits and the addition of the Trust But Verify program. The Public Defender's request is going up to $1,865,438, which is approximately a 30% increase over 21-22 due to increases in salaries and benefits and the addition of the Clean Slate program. We have a Health request of $1,850,481. It's the same as fiscal year 21-22, so there was no change there. City of Fresno Police Department's request of $1,650,115 is approximately 3% over 21-22, and that's mainly due to an increase of salaries and benefits. The City of Clovis Police Department request of $382,468 is approximately 39% decrease from 21-22, and that's due to the reduction of one sworn officer position that the City of Sangre PD will be taking on. The City of Selma Police Department's request of $200,965 is approximately 5% increase. Again, just due to the mainly due to increases in salaries and benefits. City of Greeley PD, the request is $221,141, which is approximately a 34% increase over 21-22. This is mainly due to increases in salaries and benefits and the cost associated with a new vehicle acquisition and the related upfitting. City of Kingsford Police Department request of $265,846 is approximately a 60% increase over 21-22. That's again due to increases in salaries and benefits and costs associated with new vehicle acquisition and outfitting. City of Kerman, their request is going to be $143,388, which is approximately a 31% decrease from 21-22, and that's due to the removal of a vehicle acquisition cost that they had budgeted for in 21-22. And lastly, the City of Sangre's Police Department request of $296,484 is a 100% increase over last year. They are joining ACT by providing one sworn officer, and this budget also includes one vehicle, upfitting, and related service and supplies cost. To summarize, the total proposed allocation is $50,778,401, an increase of 7% over last year, or about $3.1 million.
Thank you, Sal. Any questions from the CCP? Right, seeing none. Any questions from the public in regard to the budget requests for 22-23 for the CCP operating budget? All right, seeing no public comment, we'll come back to the CCP and ask for a motion and a second to approve the 2022-23 AB 109 funding requests.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and we will ask for a roll call vote.
Chief Haynes,
Yes.
DA Smitcamp,
Yes.
PD Tylack,
Yes.
Chief Dadian,
Yes.
CEO Elliott,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. And then we'll move on to item G, which is to receive our verbal reports and approve any recommendations, if any, from our CCP subcommittees. And,
Hey, Kurt, can I ask a quick question of
Yeah.
Yusel? So on this document, Yusel, maybe next time, can we have what we approved months ago as far as the percentage of funds left over, or the percent, or what our bank account was going to be? Can it be in a note in the bottom or like a heading or something? Because I know we approved something. I just don't remember what it was as a frame of reference, if that's okay with everybody.
for a total, you mean, or?
No, just
for-
like what we decided, we were going to keep 5% on the books, or $5 million, that we weren't going to go
Oh.
below that,
Gotcha.
whatever term
Right.
you want to use. I know we talked about it.
Yeah, we did.
Picked a number. I just don't remember what it was.
All right. Any public comment regarding what CEO Mike Elliott just talked about? Okay, seeing none, let's move forward to item G, and that's to receive our verbal reports and approve any recommendations, if any, from our CCP subcommittees. And right now, we're going to have our Resources Development Subcommittee is going to report out. And that's going to be Assistant Deputy Chief Robert Martinez will report out. Now, last time, Robert just kind of hung out. And now look at him. He's sitting up here. He's getting ready to take over. All right. Thank you, Robert.
I am the Assistant Deputy Chief of the Fresno County Probation Department and currently the CCP Subcommittee Resource Development Chair. The CCP Resource Development Subcommittee met earlier this month on August 11th. I'm going to summarize 3 items that we discussed at this meeting. The first item discussed included the expansion of the GEO Reentry Employment Program. GEO provided the committee with an estimated price proposal for expanding the Reentry Employment Program to 150 participants. Going up to 150 participants would allow the reentry program to nearly double its services to serve approximately 600 participants annually. Recommendations discussed by the subcommittee on asking the CCP to fund the additional amount to expand GEO's programs, which would also include our pre-trial defendants. Also supplied for review was the current scale for top criminogenic needs of AB 109, with the top 3 being aggression, community employment, and education. At the last CCP meeting, GEO Reentry Employment provided an overview of their program to the CCP executive team. CCP gave direction to the resource development subcommittees to review options for possible expansion of services delivery due to need. No opposition from the subcommittee on asking the CCP to fund the additional amount of $232,000 to fund the expansion. The recommendation is to approve additional funding for the expansion of additional services. The second item involved discussions for starting the RFP process for the Building Trades Construction Apprenticeship Program. As the current contract expires in April of 2023, and we want to ensure there are no gaps in services. In addition, the current contract with the Fresno EOC Valley Apprenticeship Connections provided to the subcommittee for review. The group agreed the RFP process should start, and the subcommittee will review the current scope of work necessary. We will move forward with starting the RFP process if there is no opposition. Third item involved giving the subcommittee an update on the status of CCP provider outcome summaries. The group advised that the outcome summaries were received by all providers, and these documents were currently being reformatted and would be sent to the committee for review. Outcome summaries were provided to the CCP by Crystal Youngblood on August 19th. of this month. Thank you for your time today.
All right, thank you so much, Robert, for that report. And what we'll do, if, just for the pleasure of the CCP, I'm going to ask for just some input and comments. First, we'll do one of your 3 items at a time. In your initial item, Robert was talking about the funding of the GEO funding program.
Correct.
Any questions from the CCP in regard to this recommendation that's coming from the Resources Development Subcommittee?
I have a quick question, Mr. Martinez. I don't know if you can answer this, but on this part of our handout from the Fresno Reentry Employment Services, it indicates that 67% of the participant job seekers secured employment. Are there any statistics about the rest of the people? Are they returning to criminal behavior, or are they not seeking out jobs? Or are they just not getting jobs? What's happening to the other participants?
Well, I have 2 representatives from the GEO program here today. I'd like to ask that, would you be able to provide that information, Humberto?
So we have coming up Humberto Sanchez, who is, what's your title, Humberto?
Yeah. Hello, ma'am. Hello, board members. My name is Humberto Sanchez, Area Manager, Geo Reentry. But I would like Vanessa, who's our Program Manager, to tackle that question, if that's okay.
Perfect.
Hello, Vanessa Quintana, Program Manager. For those individuals, as we know with this population, it's not always easy to keep them engaged. And so that's kind of, they either just stop coming, it's not court ordered. So that's pretty much where most of them end up. They don't come back.
Are there consequences for that, or what? That they're just dropped from the program? Does that information then go back to their probation officer or to the court?
It
in any
does,
way?
yeah. So we'll attempt contact, and then after 30 days of no contact, we refer it back to the officer if they want them to continue. Do we want to continue to try to reach out, or so it really just depends on the officer how they would like to move forward.
Any other questions from the CCP in regard to this recommendation? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Robert, let me get you to come back and take a look at this, just so that I can have an idea of the discussion with the Resources Development Committee. And I know that the recommendation is for us to fund the additional support for the total requested budget. And so this budget that we have before us here, it represents a change of about $232,000. Is that correct?
That's correct, for a total of $104,000 for the year. And that's from, this last year was from 271. So yes, the increase of 232.
And that 232 is per year. So that for the entirety of the, just so that I can understand it, looks like the entirety of the contract would be $504,159?
Correct.
Okay. So any public comment in regard to this item, this first item from the Resources Development Subcommittee before we come back to the CCP for a vote? All right, seeing none from the public, I'm going to ask for the official recommendation from the Resources Development Subcommittee is to fund the expansion of the GEO, make sure I say it correctly, Fresno Reentry Employment Services from GEO, that's being funded by the CCP. So asking for a motion and approval, a second for approval of staff's recommendation to fund the program.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, there's been a move and a second, and we're going to ask for a roll call vote.
Chief Haynes,
Yes.
DA Smitkamp,
I'm going to give a hesitant yes.
PD Tylak,
Yes.
Chief Dadian,
Yes.
CEO Elliott.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving forward, we're going to your second item Robert, and that was in regard to development of of an RFP around employment services, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
And currently, who provides that service to to our CCP clients now?
Fresno EOC Valley Apprenticeship Connections.
And, one of the things that, as I was looking at this, knowing that this was going to be coming, do we have any kind of data or any information from EOC in regard to their current service delivery, just so that the CCP can have an idea of what outcomes look like now? Or what was the plan for the CCP to be able to have that, to Mike's point, around making sure that if we're going to refund the program, that there's some semblance of understanding that there's some success there?
Are you talking about the outcome summary that you provided? I reached out this morning and I actually received an updated outcome summary from Amelia Martinez from that program. She gave me the stats that were lacking from the last document, and I can get those to the subcommittee later this afternoon and provide that completed outcome summary.
So the outcome summary report that we have today needed some updates. Is that what we were asking?
Yes, it was missing. I was missing some information. And I believe Amelia might be here too, if you'd like to speak to her.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, Amelia, why don't you come up real quick? So was their outcome summary report, Robert, part of this initial package that the CCP got? It was, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, from EOC.
Just, may I make a quick comment?
Yes, please.
So just so you know, my hesitant yes is that I look at these numbers and I think that $500,000 for 76 jobs is a lot of money per job. And not being critical of the work you're doing, because I've been dealing with criminals in the criminal justice system for 26 years. I know it's very difficult, but I just want to make sure that we're addressing the correct issues, right? To have the right people, and 67% of people is good. And I don't know, I'm getting some, are we not talking about the
I'm
same
sorry.
program?
No,
That's the GEO program.
Yeah.
That was
Okay.
the first program. This is the.
So we can go back if you have questions.
Yeah,
More
no,
questions for Geo.
I just want to clarify, because I'm getting a few stares from the audience about my hesitant yes on the BI programs, but that was the reason for that. So that's why I was asking you, are you still talking about this one
Well,
program?
we were moving on to
Okay.
the second item
Got
that
it. I
that the subcommittee brought up.
I
But if
apologize.
you want to go
Nope,
back, we can.
just to clear that up, yeah. That's
Sure.
okay. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Right. But I'm looking for ELC's program in Mammalia. Let me find it.
Okay.
No, I saw it.
Quarterly through that.
Okay, yeah, I'm not seeing it right now. Amelia, why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about the program, and based on the information that you shared today with Robert, just to give an idea of, if you have that, how many clients served in a year's time?
Yeah, so just for this past year, just this last year, the timeframe that we've been reporting on, we've only received 10 referrals. We did enroll the 10 individuals that came in. We've had some people drop or terminated due to the drug test, or due to them just not complying with the class rules. The students are always welcome to come back anytime, as long as they're ready to return to the program. But this year has been pretty rough. We haven't really received that many referrals since COVID. I know things have been pretty difficult, and we stopped attending and being part of the weekly recruitment process at the probation office. So we currently have a staff getting background checks, so we could go back into the probation office and start being more available to the defendants there on site. But we currently have just enrolled in this timeframe 10 individuals. And we have 3 currently in the class right now.
And I apologize, what is the name of this program?
This is the Fresno EOC Valley Apprenticeship
Okay.
Connections Program.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, got it. Thank you. Got it.
Okay, and so thank you, Amalia. We'll have Robert, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're
We'll, let me ask Robert just a couple more questions and then we'll move forward. And Robert, I know you've not been here with us that long, but based on the need of, we know when we look at our top 3 criminogenic needs of our clients, employment is at the top of the list. And that's why we've made such an investment in the work of trying to develop skills and develop employment opportunities and all those kind of things. That's why we see why it's so important. So I certainly can see the information and how important it is. When the CCP is going to develop this new RFP, is it going to be around an apprenticeship style program or is that something that the subcommittee still needs to talk about? Yeah, David, you can talk about it. We have David Reese, who is the Deputy Chief over Realignment Services. He can probably speak better to that.
Good afternoon, CCP Board, David Reese with AB 109 Realignment. So it was a rough year simply because the way that the cohort starts. So Amalia's program, the EOC program, runs programs 2 to 3 times a year. And so based on the availability of defendants who want immediate employment and don't want to necessarily sometimes wait or put the work in to build the trade. And the program is very structured. They do drug testing. They help with the GED part. But when these individuals finish this program, they are licensed and certified in various building trades. And so in 2019, if we were to go back and look at that outcome summary, we had some very good results. Large graduations, because our office was closed and we were seeing people intermediately and very carefully because of COVID, we didn't have that EOC representative every day to do that kind of warm handoff recruitment piece. So that's why you see the numbers lacking. So now that we've opened up a little bit, we're hoping that either EOC or this next vendor will be able to do that for our realigned population, our pretrial population. But as was spoken to earlier about these individuals, the 30-something% that don't follow through, you have those that either find their own employment, find their own way, or abscond. And so at least DA Smith-Camp, just going back to your original question, what happens? We try to re-engage that individual. If not, we send our friends from the adult compliance team or a probation group to go contact them to remind them about their appointments. And eventually, if there's non-compliance, and there's consequences to that, either a bench warrant or return to custody. But based on our sanction matrix and how we kind of do business with individuals, we try to re-engage them before we have to go back to court or do a formal violation on them. So we do try to re-engage them, but there's just some individuals that don't always necessarily want to do the work. But those that are really interested in coming and say, you know what, DPO Reese, I need a job. We're going to follow through. We're going to refer them. We're going to say, look, you could get immediate employment through our reentry program, or you could look at this real good opportunity with a vocational program. You get certifications in the building trade program. So in 2018, 2019, Amalia, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had individuals that were building Costco's up and down the United States and earning $40, $50 an hour. They'd come back to the POs and say, I just got a check for $3,000. What do I do? So that was kind of part of that process. So if they go through it, they get that building certification and it's really life-changing for them. They just have to be willing to really want to, do that. So it is a costly program. It's an expensive program, but there is an avenue to get that certification in building trades. And Molly, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about all the specifics of what you do, but our numbers were really bad during COVID. And we went to some of the classes and they're in the middle of summer. All the guys are wearing masks in there. It's hot. It's tough work. And some of these individuals want to do it and some don't. And so there's every opportunity for them to do it. But having that opportunity, having that connection is important for them.
Any other questions from CCP?
I have a question.
Sure,
You
Chief.
you mentioned something about ELC didn't have the people recruiting. Or could you expand on that, or did I
Sure,
catch that
so-
correctly?
Yeah, so before we start a brand new cohort, a brand new training class, that's about how long, Malia? A 3-month class? Probably 2 months to a month before we start that, we had a representative from their program in our office and directly talking to individuals that were coming in, checking in with their PO, Chief. So if someone came in, we'd say, hey, we got this great class coming up. It's free. You could get this, this, and that. Let me introduce you to Amalia. She'll explain the program to you. And so we had a connection there. And the last gentleman that we had, Mr. Baines, made a really good connection with these individuals and, motivated them to do it. But because of COVID and our office being semi-closed, we lost a little bit of that kind of connection, that one-on-one, try to get an individual motivated to do that. So I think that's what we're talking about the recruitment piece.
Okay, so was there somebody they're actively recruiting, or what?
Yes,
That's what the piece I'm missing.
yes. There was a representative from the EOC program at our office actively recruiting. I mean, to the point where they would even walk the lobby and talk to people waiting to see their PO. And I mean, they were very, very active.
So maybe I have a question.
Sure.
So is it the recommendation of probation that does a probation officer decide which programs these people go to? Or is it the program that recruits the people from the probation department? I guess when you say they're walking around recruiting, I'm not.
Well, I mean, they're just talking to people saying, hey, we have this program. Are you interested in it? Usually it comes from the PO. Most of the individuals getting out of state prison or county jail do not have employment or haven't been able to keep employment. So it's starting that conversation with them to get them kind of engaged and motivated and let them know what the program can offer and the benefits of the program.
So it's a two-way street. The
It's a-
program does the recruiting and the probation officers also recommend.
Correct. And some individuals have that construction background, but they just never got certified. So what a great opportunity to get the actual paper with a skill set. And now,
I'm all in favor. I just want to make sure that we're getting the right people into this very expensive programming. In the
absolutely,
sense that like, why are we going to put a bunch of unmotivated people who aren't going to show up, who are going to drag other people in the program down? I just want to that's what I'm trying to sort of focus on in all these programs,
sure.
is they're extremely expensive. And so we just want to make sure we get those right people in there. And I appreciate all the work that probation does and the programming does. I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just trying to ask some hard questions so that we
Right.
make sure we do, expend our dollars in the most judicious way that we can so that we can get these people back to work.
Prior to COVID, I would
Keep
say
them out
this.
of my office.
Oh, absolutely. And I would say prior to COVID, this was probably one of our top programs. It really was. And the social distancing, the mask, all the things that came with COVID really hurt the program significantly.
Which was hard for all of us too,
Mhm.
to sit in our offices and sit on our Zooms and do all that kind of stuff. So I'm sorry if I don't seem sympathetic
Right.
to that, but we need to make sure that these are, these dollars are spent, and if we need to do more to motivate them, then maybe they need to talk from the DA. Maybe I should come and recruit some people. It'd be a good thing to do. And again, I'm not trying to be critical of the programming or the people. It's just, I just want to make sure we get those people in there. Right.
And I think I don't know how the RFP process will go, but I still think we need a program like this out there for these individuals reentering our community to give them good paying jobs. So hopefully, so they don't reoffend, they stay busy. And Molly could talk about the specifics of the program and how structured it is and what time they start in the morning and end. And I think these guys and gals are too tired to do anything criminal after because they work pretty hard. It's a very impressive program, but I'll let you talk about it.
And Fresno EOC also does recruit. We go out and do different events in the community. So we recruit for probation. It's just normally we need to get the referral from the probation officers because they got to verify that they're AB 109. So that's where we reach out with probation. But the students come out with 9 different certifications. We just had a lifer just tell us that he makes $10,000 a month, so he doesn't qualify for the gift card we're giving away. So we have changed many lives. It is hardworking. They come in from 7 to 2, and it's just structured. Random drug testing. We've had to terminate people that we thought could make it, but due to their second drug test, we had to terminate. I agree. We don't want to enroll individuals that really don't want to be here. When we hear from individuals coming in during orientation and they say that they have to be there, we actually try to talk them out of coming into the program if they're just there because somebody's making them, because it does affect the whole class. And a class of 30 being affected by one person is not good. So week 1, normally we weed people out. We let them know our structure and how strict we are, and making sure that they're going to be able to comply with those rules. If not, we let them know that they're more than welcome to come back some other day when they're able to participate in the program, following all the rules. So we do our best to weed out those that are not serious.
I have another question. So this last fiscal year, you had 10 students accepted, graduated 5. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you said you currently, and I'm assuming this fiscal year, have 3?
Yes, we have 3 currently in the class right now.
And what were you doing the fiscal year prior, 2 or 3 years prior? You said you had great numbers. Can you tell me what about those numbers?
Well, you want to know the numbers?
Yeah.
I don't have them off the top of my head, but we did at least get 15 to 20 referrals to where we actually would even have a class of about 15 to 20 CCP students, not just other students that we normally have a contract with. So the numbers came out good. We had success. I honestly can't give you like detail on the numbers, but we had a lot more of a success a few years back than we currently do right now.
12, 15, 18, 20?
That
ballpark?
completed, I would say it's at least 20 of them that had completed. Actually, I have my papers here, sorry. It's right there. Numbers here.
I'm just trying to gauge, you said it was very successful in the past prior to COVID. I get it. Everything has the COVID dynamic attached to it, but we kind of all work through COVID as best we can. It seems like, I just want to know what the numbers were prior and why
Okay.
such a.
So in the past years that we've had this contract with the probation, we've enrolled 125 participants. 69 of them have gone to work. And 45 of them have completed 90 days of employment and retention. So our percentage rate of actual achievement is 91.1%. We do 90-day follow-up retentions.
So 91% of them were still employed after 90 days, and then is that when you stop following them?
Yes, where we stop recording, but we continue just to follow up with the students.
But the stats aren't kept after?
But the stats aren't. It's only up to the 90 days.
Is that consistent with your other populations?
Yes.
Better, worse, or about average? Or is it the same?
With the other two, with the other program we have, it's about the same, but with one of our state center, because we have a lot more individuals, obviously state centers percentage is a lot higher.
And these are apprenticeship type jobs, so they shouldn't be temporary jobs in that sense, right? They should be long-term. So when you do check in after the 90 days, are you finding that most people are still employed or are they falling off?
They're still employed. And for some that might have not liked the job, they come back to us and we still serve them. We're still assisting people that might have came in 3 years ago. And we still help them with job leads if for something happened to them. We just had one that was traveling a lot. He decided not to travel anymore. So now he's back home and we found him employment here in the Central Valley. So even though we're not required to still report, we still assist our students even though they've completed over a year ago. We're still here for them and we still help as much as we can. And that's for any student. And any student that drops out or gets terminated, they're always welcome to come back. That's one thing about our program. We always welcome them to come back so they could successfully complete and attain those certificates. And we don't charge for the program again. It's just that one time that they enrolled, they just re-enrolled. They just returning students.
And in your program outcome and goals narrative, you say that your goal was to receive 80 referrals and to graduate 60. So does that continue to be your goal? And like Chief Dadian said, right, everyone had their COVID time. So assuming that we're past that.
Yes.
Or at least, almost there. does that still remain your goal? And those are AB 109 students, not all, everyone
That's
in the
right.
apprentice. It's
That's
one.
right, AB 109 students only.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that means we're gonna have to go from 10 students accepted to 80, which is a huge increase.
Yeah. So because normally we held a class of 30 to 35 students. So, and we do 3 cohorts a year as well. So if we can at least,
So you want 30, 30, and 30 through the year for a total of 90, hoping 80.
yeah, yeah, because we also know some will probably terminate or drop on their own. So we want to come up with a higher number.
And that was the trend that we saw prior to COVID, right? I mean, I don't think that, COVID, certainly did had an impact, but I think there's no disputing that it certainly had an impact on how many referrals, how many graduates you had, and those kinds of things. If I had to bring this back to the CCP now, and I don't know if there's other questions, but I think the question for us is this service still needed, right? Regardless of who's providing the service, it's a service that I believe is still valuable, especially if we can provide our clients with long-term training, durable kinds of skills that they'd be able to use well beyond the time that they're going to be on supervision. So I think something like this is certainly continued to be needed, but that's the question that the subcommittee wanted to bring to us today, is moving forward on developing a new RFP before this one ends next year.
Yes, and I'm all for, I have one more quick question. I apologize, I'm dragging this all on. I'm just trying to educate myself. For the people that do fall out of your program, just overall, not just in these COVID times, but people, is it drug use, do you think, and positive drug tests that are, because look, we all know where we live now in 2022. Sometimes it's easier to be a criminal and somebody who doesn't work and stays home and gets checks than it does to be like the rest of us that get up and go to work every day and all of our hair falls out and we get old and ugly and tired and cranky like I am. But the point is that, like, what I think I'm trying to say is what is causing the failure rate that we have, either the failure to enroll or the lack of people who are completing. So is there a substance abuse element to your program that we could add, or is that even an issue? What is the problem for people who are getting there, want to participate and then seemingly fail?
I think for us, the drug testing is not as big of an issue as we would think. It's really more them following our rules and our structure.
Which is show up on time.
Just show up on time, because when I refer people to these employers, they need to be ready to go. So if you can't make it on time every day to my office for class and so forth, then, and you can't follow the rules, then, we do everything. We counsel them, we talk to them, we share what our concerns are. We do improvement plans and all. But if they continue to just, want to disrespect or come in late and all that, then we terminate. So I would say it has to do more with that, to be honest with you.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing, just to come back to what the recommendation was from the subcommittee, is to develop an RFP that will provide for this service that we've been talking about here today. I think a couple of things that we need to include, Robert, in your discussions is talking about data capture points that we need to be keeping track of, because our programs need to be held account to whatever we believe is going to determine what is a successful participant or what is a termination. What are those reasons that DA Smith-Camp is talking about if they are being terminated, so that we can try to have some impact on that. And I think the other thing is to look at the program budget and based on what kind of service kinds of things we want to see, what kind of budget do you recommend that the CCP fund this at? And I'm not sure if CCP has any other ideas or thoughts around that.
Yeah, I'm struggling with this, and I don't doubt the efficacy of the program itself. What I question is EOC's ability to administer it.
Well, that's the whole reason for the RFP. If they're not, then another program may. But I think the service that needs to be developed is something that is still needed, is important for us to have available to us. I believe, you know, the contract that EOC has ends in April of next year, April of 23. And so I know they're currently providing the service chief. When we go through this process next year for developing a new provider, once we start the process, then it'll I'm sure early in 23, we'll figure out who's going to be that next provider of the service. It may end up being ELC or it may be another program, but considering all of the data and all of the information that potential vendors can provide, the committee will look at all of those proposals and take a look at even what EOC has done up to this point, notwithstanding COVID.
I understood. I get it. Nothing further.
Okay. Any public comment in regard to this discussion we had regarding the development of an RFP? I'll bring it back to the CCP for the recommendation coming from the Resources Development Subcommittee is that, Robert, was it why don't you give me the actual verbiage of your recommendation just so that we can have it in the minutes?
The recommendation is to start the process and develop the scope of work necessary for the RFP.
Okay. Yes. Hearing that staff recommendation, looking for a motion to approve and a second.
I will make that motion to approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded, and we'll do the roll call vote.
Chief Haynes,
Yes.
DA Smith-Camp,
Yes.
PD Tylak,
Yes.
Chief Dadian,
No.
CEO Elliott.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right. And then to your third item, Robert, that was in regard to the outcome summary reports that we have before us today?
Correct. It was just a report out to the subcommittee during our meeting that they would be sent out to you guys, the executive committee, and they were sent out in August 19th.
So those outcome summary reports from all of the funded programs were sent out. Are there any questions? They were sent out on the 19th of August. Any questions from the CCP in regard to the outcome summary reports? And Robert, there was no specific recommendation regarding those, right?
No. There should be 21 in total.
Yeah. Yeah, I see those.
And just I'm going to be sending the committee the updated EOC's updated stats later on today.
Okay, and we'll make sure that gets distributed and posted onto the site.
So, Chief Haynes, let me ask you this. So is this the proper time to comment on any of the program outcomes we have?
Yes.
Just, you're the guy for all of these, yes, Mr. Martinez?
I'm the collector of the data.
Okay, so I would like to, if we have some time, just revisit the issue that the Fresno Sheriff's Department Community Corrections Patrol Unit. I've been confused about this unit from the day that it was voted on here. I see that there have been, there are 4 positions funded with a program budget of $777,000. And I'm still confused as to what this unit does. Is this, the narrative discusses 800 inmates in the jail, which says that there is a hardened criminal element now being housed at the Fresno County Jail, which we all know after the passage of AB 109, that's definitely a fact. And there is an increase in violence and calls for service and crime reports in the investigation of the jails. So these calls have resulted in misdemeanor and felony arrests and cases submitted for criminal charges. Then it goes on to talk about several incidents in the downtown area that require deputy sheriff responses. Shootings in the courthouse park and vicinity are more often. And so I guess what my question is there have been 2,998 calls for service and 450 of them have been calls for service at the jail. 737 reports written, and 248 arrests made. So my question is, what does this unit do? Who are they? Are they just extra and they wait to see if there's calls from inside the jail? Are they there in case there's crime in Courthouse Park? And when they're not doing police work outside the jail, like there's 2,998 calls for service with 248 arrests. So, and only 737 reports written for 3,000 calls. So I've been in law enforcement for a long time. I just can't figure out who are these? What are they doing? They're going out to calls for service. They're clearly busy, but what's happening? What kind of calls are these? Are these gassings in the jail? Are deputy sheriffs being called because people are spitting on other people in the jail? Or are they crimes that are occurring in the jail? What if you know?
I would defer to the agency's representative if present.
And I know Sheriff
Department.
Mims is not here today, but I'm not sure if there's someone from the Sheriff's Department who is present who might want to come and at least make a
Sheriff
comment.
is in town. I see him in the back.
We see Sheriff-elect Zanoni is present, and I'm not sure, Sheriff-elect, if you have anything you want to share on that. And just to give you a little bit of history, we did have the lieutenant, was that 2 years ago, come and give a brief report on the activity of this unit. So I'm not sure if you would want to have some time to be able to get some more information, but we certainly have done that in the past.
Well, to the board, the position is for deputy sheriffs. One is assigned a day shift for part of the week, and the other one works day shift on the back half of the week. Then we have 2 swing shift deputy sheriffs. They respond to calls for service that are in the jail. A lot of those calls involve inmates doing things like spitting on each other, battery, possession of alcohol, possession of drugs, possession of illegal material. So those are taken. Now we have to break that down based on, they're going to take the report, whether it's an AB 109 inmate or whether it's a non-AB 109 inmate. And then when they're not busy in the jail, and that position also functions in the capacity as like a detective. So not only do they take the report, but they actually will file the case. And so, for instance, DA Smitkamp, about a year ago, one of your DA investigators was robbed here in Courthouse Park or in front of the building. That's the kind of call that our deputy sheriff responded to and made the arrest on the individual. So they are out patrolling Courthouse Park. Are all of those individuals covered under AB 109? No, I mean, that's be unrealistic to think that they are. But they are basically the downtown beat, and they're responsible for calls for service that are generated out of the jail. And due to the high number of AB 109 inmates in the jail, that's their number one responsibility or their number one priority.
And I understand that, Sheriff-elect Zanoni, and I appreciate the fact that, you do have people available to protect people in the park, because there's a lot of citizens in that park. We've seen a tremendous increase in violence and shootings and all of that happening in the park. And your response is always great. It's always timely and effective and efficient. But my problem is that, and my problem has been with this from day one, is just getting that clarification that we have a responsibility as a CCP, that this money is to be directed directly toward a certain population. And believe me, I know better than anybody, it's very difficult sometimes to pick out who are the AB 109 people, and it's hard to separate them sometimes. But I feel like this is always the one that just sits, it just jumps out at me because I don't think it's focused enough to be where it is. And the numbers are, these calls for service at 3,000 with arrests made of 248 and reports written at 737. I think that tells us that there is a lot of time and energy put toward things that, maybe are not AB 109 specific. And I think that's just my concern.
And I understand that concern, but like I said, the number one priority for us is when you are assigned to the Lincoln 35, that you will respond to the jail for calls for service regarding found narcotics, regarding crimes, whether they be felonies or misdemeanors, that is your number one priority. Now, that deputy sheriff is not staying in the jail waiting for a call because that would be less than efficient. So they are out doing other things in the vicinity, and they do come in contact with individuals who are part of AB 109. But when that call comes out in the jail, that's their primary responsibility, and that's where they respond to.
Right.
And
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I don't disagree that the calls need to be responded to. The question is who funds them? And is this the proper use of this money? That's my question.
One thing I'll say, DA Smith Camp, is that the funds that are provided under AB 109, because even in our department and the service delivery that we have, we serve, of course, AB 109, whether on MS or PRCS, but we also provide services to regular 1203 people on probation. So there are places where, as the CCP, we are funding services that are not strictly for the AB 109 population. And we've been doing that, from day one because the legislation does allow for it. But just to give you that.
I understand. I just want to make sure that we're all, I'm not trying to isolate one thing. I'm just trying to protect us all as a board, all of us, and you will sit on this board soon. So that will include you and Sheriff Mims. I just want to make sure we're on the right track.
And DA Smith Camp, I understand your concerns, but with the additional number of AB 109 inmates that are in custody, that's something that like I said, we're not going to be there all the time. That's not going to be 100% of what we're doing, but that is the priority for this position, and that is their mission. When those calls come out, they respond over there. That's their job.
So if they're on another call, are they called off to come to the jail, or they wait for their rotation to finish their call and then they come in if they're doing something else in the area?
It would depend. If they're doing something else in the area, if someone's in custody, they're going to be booking them into the jail. If it's just a subject check and they're not writing a report and they're going to release the person, they're going to respond over to the jail. Typically, that's what they do, is go to the jail and take reports. And I don't think we've had calls hold like they have in the past when we had the Calwa Malaga deputy also be responsible for this area. Now we have the Lincoln 35 car basically 20 hours a day available to respond to the jail when that call arises, whether it's we've found fentanyl in the jail, or whether we found a weapon, or whether we found narcotics or cell phones, all that kind of stuff. That's their job. That's what they respond to. That's their number one priority.
Any other questions regarding any of the outcomes? Thank you, Sheriff-elect Zone. I appreciate that. Any other questions regarding any of the other outcome summary reports that were sent on the 19th of August? Any public comment regarding the outcome summary reports? All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, Robert. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you, board.
All right, so we're going to move on to our Research, Evaluation, and Technology Subcommittee, and this is going to be our Assistant Deputy Chief Melanie Johnson is going to come and provide an update. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, members of the CCP board. The Research, Evaluation, and Technology Committee worked with Kevin O'Connell and Ryan Souza from the California State Association of County Support Hub for Criminal Justice Programming and submitted the scope of work to evaluate the CCP-funded entities at the last meeting. The scope of work was edited as suggested by the CCP board and submitted to probation's analyst to prepare the documentation needed to move forward in the RFP process through county purchasing. Regarding the data tracker handouts, the requested updates by CEO Elliott have been made, and the pretrial stats indicate the number of jail bookings reviewed.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the CCP regarding the report out from Melanie Johnson? I did have one question, Melanie, in regard to the RFP, the scope of work that was done. And so remind me, because I know we talked about this before, but for the outcome summary reports, that is going to be incorporated into the work that this committee, that the vendor is going to have available to them as they are doing some of the work with the evaluation?
They will be evaluating the programs that are submitting the outcome summary reports. That's
So-
correct.
But were they going to be all of them? Because I know we had said that we're going to start with just,
Just the direct services programming.
right, okay. Like you had a question?
So on page 10, where it says probation, supervision, incentive, I'm not sure if I think it might have, has anything happened? I think that's what it said last time.
No, that it's still, we're working on the process. We have a contractual agreement with the University of Cincinnati Corrections Institute, and once they advise to move forward in the EBP process, then that will be re-implemented. But we have redeveloped a sanctions matrix and incentives matrix.
Okay. So maybe take off that will be available the next reporting period. Maybe just put in what you just said right now, I guess.
Yeah, there's a note that says that it will be available in the next.
It'll be
reporting period.
removed.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions regarding the report out from Melanie Johnson? Any public comment regarding the report out from the Research and Technology Subcommittee? Is that it, Melanie?
That's it.
All right, thank you.
I'm reading Karen's as well.
Oh, okay. Then we're going to move on to our Victim Mandate Subcommittee. No, I'm sorry. Before we do that, our Fiscal Audit Subcommittee, it looks like DC Zalap, we do not have anything to report from our Fiscal Subcommittee.
Nothing else to add, Chief.
Okay, thank you. And moving on to our Victim Mandates Subcommittee, we're Assistant DC is Karen Roach is not available today. So Melanie Johnson is pinch hitting today.
I'm reading the statement provided by ADC Roach. The committee did not meet as a whole. However, on August 12th, 2022, the following committee members, Karen Roach, ADC, Deputy Probation Officer Tammy Tabaki, Megan Marks from RCU, and Lorena Tello from Superior Court participated in a restitution roundtable coordinated by Scott Hode, Chief Deputy District Attorney. The DA's the DA's 2 restitution specialists and DPO for Tammy Tabaki. Additional staff from the DA's office and the courts also participated. The roundtable's purpose is to continue the efforts of refining the restitution process, identify barriers, and maintaining open lines of communication between agencies that are handling restitution issues on behalf of victims. During the meeting, new gaps were identified, which the roundtable and the CCP Victim Mandate Subcommittee can work on together.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the CCP in regard to the Victim Mandates report out? Any public comment regarding that report? All right, thank you, Melanie. Appreciate it. And then we're going to move on to our Adult Compliance Team Subcommittee, and we're going to have Assistant Deputy Chief Manuel Silva come up and provide a report.
Good afternoon, members of the CCP Board. Manuel Silva, Assistant Deputy Chief and Act Operations Commander. The Adult Compliance Team has continued to be a very productive and effective unit to ensure the compliance of the defendants in their jurisdiction of probation. A few highlights from the outcome summary, as you guys hopefully have read. We had over 1,400 searches, 189 assists to other agencies, 166 arrests, and we seized 35 weapons. In addition, the team assisted with the various agencies within the Fresno County on several supervision details and operations. We assisted with 2 Gold Star operations for the Fresno Sheriff's Department, 2 Fresno Police Department operations, Operation Safe Neighborhoods, and Operation Street Violence Reduction. In addition to the Kerman Harvest Festival, Salmon Raisin Festival, Parlier Roundup, Clovis Rodeo, as well as specific details and operations for Kalinga, Selma, and Parlier. I also wanted to give a big thank you to our ACT crime analyst, Erica Binford from Clovis PD, as she has assisted the ACT team with every detail, vetting locations for us, and assisting with these stats. Any questions on the outcome summary? In addition, the team is looking forward to the addition of Sanger Police Department Officer Dario Salazar to the team, as we were anticipating an October start date for him. Final note, we are working on an updated ACT operating agreement with the addition of the Sanger Police Department and the new Selma Police Department Chief, Rudy Alcaraz. I, along with Assistant Deputy Chief Jill Reynolds and Deputy Chief David Reese, are working on a side letter agreement for the pretrial after-hours response component as well. So we should have that wrapped up hopefully within 30 to 60 days.
Okay. Is that it?
And that's it.
Any questions for Manuel Silva or in regard to the ACT subcommittee report out? I'm sorry.
I just have one quick comment, Mr. Silva. I just want to compliment you and ACT. I continue to be in collaboration and cooperation, and just really just effective work every single day. You're keeping our community safer. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you, Jason McCann.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I am going to.
Go for it.
Could you talk a little bit about the after-hours pretrial GPS component? And maybe you or maybe David might be able to speak better to it.
Yeah, let's bring David Reese in.
But just to give an idea to the CCP, because I know we've been working on this, but I'd like for the CCP to be able to hear the opportunity that we have working with the court and on how we can enhance our GPS monitoring.
So, actually, I have a little statement for it. Here we go. So the County of Fresno and the following agencies, Fresno Police Department, Fresno Sheriff, Selma, basically the whole ACT team, we agreed to assist in a pretrial after-hours response component. So if there's a situation that occurs in regards to one of our pretrial defendants, the one ACT officer along with 2 deputy probation officers will respond to the situation. We are hoping that every agency will be able to assist on the after-hours component, and we're working up those numbers for the CCP in addition to the courts. Now they will respond to GPS violations, questions, and technical problems. So we anticipate, say Fresno PD gets a call from a protected victim, and hopefully they'll respond to the situation. We should get an alert, as it will be an active system, GPS system from the monitoring company. Our probation officer will get in touch with the response team, and we too will respond to the situation.
Which is a little bit different than what we had with our passive system, right? With our passive system that we had in place before, those kind of alerts would come and we would take a look at those alerts the next morning, the next business day morning, actually.
That's correct.
And so this will enhance our opportunity to be able to be more responsive to those kind of alerts whether it could be a protected victim or it could be an area that they have some, places where they're not supposed to be. But this funding that we're working with the court on, along with working with the ACT team, will allow us to be able to be more responsive to, and to be able to enhance public safety of those, dealing with those clients that are on GPS. So, all right. Any other questions from the CCP? Any public comment regarding the adult compliance team report out? All right, seeing none. Thank you so much, Manuel.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. And now we're on item H, which is our public comment period. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the CCP executive members about matters within the jurisdiction of the CCP, but not listed on the agenda. Any public comment regarding anything that was not on today's agenda within the purview of the CCP? All right, seeing none. Appreciate that. So we will move on to item I, and we'll adjourn today's meeting. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Appreciate it.